today, but it cut off on the Friday.
November 5th?
Yeah.
No, November 6th,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it worked in the morning.
Yeah.
And my friend was there trying to figure out her flight stuff, and then she stopped working while we were doing that. It's like, I don't know. And I completely forgot until that night.
Yeah. Remember the 5th of November, the day the internet died and left. I know no reason why.
Yeah, we both had the same internet connection. Like
Yeah.
4G.
So now you're getting Charter? Do you think it's the best deal?
From what I looked up, most things aren't in my. I mean, don't have Time Warner in my area. AT&T, Charter, I don't think right. That was the cheapest one.
Clear was the cheapest.
Oh well, this was 46 something a month.
Bummer.
No contract.
Oh, no contract.
It's
Wait, is that cheaper than Clear?
Yeah, but it's a cable.
So it's fast. I heard Charter is the fastest in the Fort Worth area. I'm gonna start downloading because with Clear it would sometimes bug out. I couldn't even check my email.
Yeah.
And then
That one, but I streamed stuff.
yeah.
I live right here in Fort right?
East Fort Worth, yeah. Intersection of 820 and I-30. But when I took it to Austin, it was all 5 bars. Here I barely got 2 bars. Yeah, so I think it's I'm on the bottom floor. I don't know, just space.
I feel like they have it, they're not filling that gap with something right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of loyal customers, I think.
Yeah, and you would think people would demand it, but hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah. I'm sure they had lots of statistics and multivariable analysis showing how wouldn't be worth it.
Kind of made me think that it was probably something they were losing money at because there was no data cap on it. It was
Right. And you could take it anywhere.
Yeah, if I don't know. Why did these chairs never raise up?
Oh, yeah. So I called Sprint, and I said, is there anything I can get a deal with you guys? And they said on my average use, which was 26 gigs a month, which doesn't sound too much, right? They said it'd be $100 with Sprint. I was like, okay, bye-bye. See you tomorrow. We can't even negotiate.
Twice as much as those things were. How about
Yeah. It was over twice, yeah. Because I was paying $39.99.
How'd you get that deal?
I've had Clear for almost 7 years or something. Yeah.
I've just had mine since I started school here.
Oh wow.
Flat rate.
Oh okay, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I've had Clear for it's as old as the hills. They used to sell them at malls and little kiosks. This is a big deal. Nowadays, and now there aren't really any 4G networks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Part of their consideration was that there was too many people using it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
All right. I guess we can't put this off any longer. I'm really disappointed because Mr. Golightly's here. We don't think he's ever missed. I probably shouldn't call attention to that, but there he is. He's here. I saw him.
Yeah, I saw him leave.
Go lightly. It's like
He
breakfast
opened
at
the door
Tiffany's.
and he was walking outside.
Okay. Well. Okay, here's the pop quiz of the day, and we're going to be talking. We're in the middle of our materials on incorporation by reference. I just think that I think what I should do is ask you. I forgot. What is incorporation by reference? Just here's your pop quiz. Write it down. Take 30 seconds. Just write down the rule. Write down the elements. What's required in order for an extrinsic document that's not executed with the testamentary formalities, the statutory formalities, what's required for it to be incorporated by reference into a will, what are the elements? Take 40 seconds. By that clock. Someday we'll get a new clock. Incorporated by reference.
Oh, he's gone. He's not here. I saw him leave. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably scared.
Then that's what I was trying to make a division.
You was just like that?
He's like one, two. Here's another here. Oh my God.
Who wants to know? Who's on, run number one's on call, right? You remove your own number one, too. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. You're on run number one. And remember, run number one's on call tonight, run number two's on call Thursday, next Tuesday, Thursday. And then the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, these two rows are on call. And remember, no class after Thanksgiving. I will make that up and it will be posted somehow, somewhere. I don't know, they'll tell me how it's posted, and I'll let you know how it's posted. So we'll do that. Okay, who wants to tell me about incorporation by reference?
Document that, so the document to be incorporated must be in existence at the time the will is executed.
Existence at the time the will is executed. That is, it predates the will, right? It's going to be, it doesn't have to physically be dated, it just has to be in existence. It's been created before the will was created. Existence at the time the will is executed, what else?
The will must show a clear intention to be incorporated by reference.
Okay, the will has to show a clear intention to incorporate by reference, and
And the will must clearly identify the document or
Yep.
material to be incorporated.
clearly identified, clearly ID. So the document that's going to be incorporated has to be in existence at the time the will is executed. There has to be a clear intention to incorporate shown in the will. It has to be shown in the will. And the will must clearly identify the document, right, to be incorporated. Okay, that's what we're in the middle of the incorporation by reference materials when last we left off on Thursday night. So, here goes. Let's pick back up. I think I said I was going to talk to you about pour-over wills, and how incorporation by reference works with respect to pour-over wills. So let's talk about that. I also think that in the syllabus I had you skip. There's a case on pour-over wills a little bit later in this chapter on page 236. And I think I had you skip all that from 236 to 242 on pour-over wills. I had you skip that material. So I want you to know what a pour-over will is. Just briefly, because it's important to state land device, but I skipped that case because I don't like the case. So let's talk a little bit about pour-over wills. And this would be fair game. I'm working on y'all's exam, and I'm thinking I might do something I haven't done in a long time, which is have maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 minutes of just one or two sentences, like we do on these pop quizzes. Identify or define this term or compare and contrast. And I haven't done that in a few years, and I think I might just do that to just kind of mix things up a little bit. So anything I said in class would be fair game for that. That's the good news. But that separates the D's from the F's as far as I'm concerned. You ought to be able to get the majority of that stuff just off the top of your head without even looking at anything. Of course, on the final exam, you won't be able to look at anything. But I think these are just things that we've talked about and I've emphasized. Usually someone will many of you will probably draw a blank on like one of them. So you might have 8 or 10 or 12 or 15, just 1 point or 1/2 point. You've got 1 minute or 2 minutes, just in a sentence or two, tell me what, define the term or explain the term that I'm going to ask about. So a pour-over will, this would be a perfectly fair game for the final exam, even though I haven't assigned you any reading on it, because we're talking about it in class for a minute. I won't ask you an essay on it, I promise that. I won't ask you even a multiple choice question on it, but if I decide to do the definition section, I might have you define it. So, what is a pour-over will? I'm going to define it, but does anyone want to take a guess at that? Has anyone dealt with pour-over wills before? You know?
So you created an inter vivos trust
Okay.
during your, so that means during your
So now,
lifetime.
where did you find this?
I
You
read
read
the,
material. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I
You
missed
also got
that.
my notes from last year too. I know that. But
Well,
okay, we'll look.
I did.
We also have last year's book from someone, but that's okay too. It's all great. Listen. I applaud your
boy.
stick-to-itiveness. No, this is great. I love it. This is great. Your persistence and your eagerness. I like that. I don't want to kill it. So tell me about.
Okay,
it.
so you set up an
I
inter.
may have to pay you a little bit of my of my teaching salary for tonight because you're stealing my stuff. Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay, so you set up an inter vivos trust during your lifetime.
You set up an inter vivos trust. What's an inter vivos trust?
So that means a trust within your life.
There's a trust
during your
created
lifetime.
All right. So I'm going to be the testator. I'm the one who's going to die, and I have the estate plan. So I set up what's called an inter vivos trust, a revocable trust, a very common estate planning device. And later in the semester, almost the end of the semester, aren't we? Okay, a little bit later. All these things that I keep saying later in the semester. Gosh darn, that last night or two of class. Wow, we're going to just be covering stuff. We're going to be leaking through it. Okay. We'll be covering revocable inter vivos trust a little later on this semester. So you set up a revocable inter vivos trust. RIV, not RIP. RIV, Revocable Inter Vivos Trust. I set that up because it's part of my estate plan. When I RIP, I'll be torn over. That's right. Okay,
So you set up a
trust.
provision in your will and then upon your death, the money you have set up in your will go back to the trust, pour over into the trust.
It'll pour over to the trust. Exactly right. So let me repeat this.
Okay.
Here, back and back, and you're 100% right. In fact, I don't think I could have said it better myself. In fact, some of it's not very familiar, but that's great because I probably read the same. I probably stole it from the same source. Don't you know? I shouldn't. You know,
You can ask me about the cases.
No,
too. Yeah.
you know all. I know you know this stuff. I'm just teasing you. I'm just teasing you. So, by the way, nice haircut. You shaved. You look great. You look different. This is great. All right. Not that you looked bad before. But, you know what it is tonight?
I don't want to be a big.
No, you're not going to start. You know what the problem is tonight? I was hungry, and someone brought a really nice-looking piece of pizza. And I'm bringing it up for everyone in the class.
We can get you
Oh.
some too.
No. I've probably eaten too much.
It's another piece in the bag.
No. That's for dessert. That's your dessert. No. Okay. Yeah, I set up a revocable inter vivos trust. Very common estate planning device. I take some assets, maybe some fairly minimal assets during my lifetime, and I put them in a trust. This trust is not in my will. I execute a trust instrument that creates this trust. And we'll talk more about revocable inter vivos trust, but I do that. And then in my will, what I do is I leave, perhaps most commonly, I make specific and general bequests, and then I leave all the rest and residue of my estate. What do we call that?
The residuary.
The residuary estate. Generally, I'll leave my residuary estate to this trust that I've created during my lifetime. Once I die, this is in my will. The will leaves my residuary estate to this trust. Once I die, generally the trust becomes irrevocable. Okay? And my residuary estate goes into my trust, and it's administered in accordance with the terms of my trust, and it's paid out, the income is paid out, and it's ultimately distributed the way the trust provides, not the way the will provides. All the will says is I leave the rest and residue of my estate to the trustee of my revocable trust, and I identify the trust. Okay? So this is very common. And look at, if you will, I think I asked you to look at section, the Estates Code, 254.001. 254.001 of the Estates Code. Look at subsection A. Let's go through this. We're going to find this on page 212. Subsection A, devices to trustees.